Hello and welcome to the Movoto Mike podcast, the new real estate podcast brought to you by Movoto.com. I'm Patrick Kearns. I'm an ex-journalist and 10-year vet of the real estate industry who's currently working as Movoto's head of communications. With me here today is my associate, Sophie Brandeis. Sophie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Patrick. I'm excited about our guest we have on today. But question for you, what were you doing as a sophomore in college?
I was studying environmental engineering, which is very far from what I do today. What about you?
I was definitely not getting my real estate license, like our guest, Chris Heller. Chris is a real estate trailblazer and has been continuously setting industry standards since he obtained his real estate license as just a sophomore in college. He's been a rookie agent of the year, run a top real estate team, and served in leadership roles for some of the biggest brands in real estate, including Keller Williams, Mello Home, and our own Movoto, where he's currently president. His leadership spans various sectors from advising to coaching, board membership, and beyond. Welcome to the Movoto Mike, Chris. We are so excited to have you on today.
Well, I am excited to be here with you guys.
Chris, starting out getting a real estate license at 19, growing to a top agent in the country, running a large team, eventually becoming the CEO of Keller Williams, and then turning to prop tech here at Movoto and with Ojo. Talk to us a little bit about that journey. Talk to us about the growth you experienced. How does 19-year-old Chris Heller get here today?
I was kind of thrown into it. So it was for a summer job of selling timeshares. My dad was managing a timeshare resort in Lake Tahoe, and he said, "You're gonna call me up." Said, "Hey, you need to get your real estate license, then you can come up here and work for the summer." And I said, "Okay," and I did. And then halfway through the summer, he took a similar position down in San Diego, so I went down there. And that summer job turned into 3 years of selling timeshares while going to school part-time. During that time, I met a real estate broker who had come into the resort. That was in 1986. So it was at the end of near the end of when I was selling timeshares. And he started recruiting me to join his brokerage to get into real estate. And that process went on for 3 years. Handwritten notes, phone calls, every time I ran into him, trying to get me to join him. During that 3-year period, I had started, again, to work for a marketing company, started my own company with a partner. That ended in disaster as my partner went off the deep end. And I met with the broker about, starting over again, leasing an office. And during that meeting, I don't remember a lot about that meeting. I remember being in his little office. I remember being across the desk from him. I was there to lease an office to start my own marketing company. And by the end of the meeting, I said, "Okay, I'll give real estate a try." And I said, "But I'm not going to sell houses. If I'm going to do this, I want to sell big stuff, buildings and big things." And I didn't know anything about real estate, let alone commercial real estate. But after 30 days, I showed up the first day and he said, "All right, here's what you do. Take this form and go into these businesses. Pick an area you want to work." So I picked this area near the airport in San Diego and Carlsbad. And he said, "Go into these businesses and ask these questions." So it's like a survey sheet. How big is your company? How many agents or how many employees do you have? Are you looking to expand? I did that for 30 days. 7:00 in the morning, I'd start knocking on doors. I'd do it till the business is closed at 5:00. I'd come back to the office, show them how many I had filled out. I had no idea why I was doing it. I had no idea what the information was going to be used for. And after 30 days, I bought a townhome, and there was a woman who was a real estate agent that worked my neighborhood, and she was also the top agent in the office. So my cubicle was across from hers.
I like how real estate agents are sort of just gravitating towards you. It feels like it's similar to today, right? There's just as you're walking, there's sort of just this center of gravity of real estate professionals around you.
Yeah, so she was the top agent. I was watching, I knew what she did, the stuff that I got at my house, the mailers and door hangers and stuff. And then in the office, I would see her work. And after 30 days of not knowing what I was doing, I thought, well, all right, maybe I could sell houses. So I retired as a commercial agent, and then I started my career as a residential agent. I had no, this is a long time ago, right? So no internet. There was no where to get training. The only thing I could do is watch agents and ask questions. And I was so determined, and even though I'm highly introverted and shy, I would just pepper the agents all day long with questions like, "How do you do this? And what does that mean? And what?" And and just through sheer determination and blood, sweat, and tears, I sold 27 homes that first year, and I was Rookie of the Year in San Diego, and then it just kept growing from there.
So where do you think that determination came from?
I don't believe people are born with it. I think things happen, right? Things in your childhood, and there was probably things in my childhood that happened that caused me to, show the world that I could do something, or that I wasn't I wasn't a failure, or whatever it might be. And there were specific things that I could think back to that probably played a pretty big role in that. But from a young from about third grade on, I was sort of your typical overachiever. Wasn't the smartest, wasn't the fastest, wasn't anything, but my effort was probably not normal. And by the time I got into real estate, I didn't have a choice. I just the marketing company that I had with a partner just went down in flames, and I had a little bit of money in the bank and had just gotten married, and it was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And and at the end of that first year, I remember going into one of my finance professors said, "Hey, I've decided I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do real estate. School's done. Everything else is done." And he didn't think that was a good idea, but that, which is his job, and then said, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
Totally. I like the idea too of earlier things driving you. I mean, you can probably tell I've got pretty big middle child behavior generally. So a lot of that determination and motivation comes from being the middle of five. I would love to hear about the first house you sold. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. You and I have known each other for a long time now.
Actually, it's pretty memorable.
I would love to hear about how you sold your first house, because I mean, part of this, right, is that we want to give people looking to get into this industry a little insight into what it's like, but really what it's like to start, right? And I know that you've probably got to work really, really hard to sell your first house, maybe harder than any other sale you'll make in your life.
Yeah. So once I decided I was going to go sell houses, the broker said, all right, you should pick an area. And all the areas around me had a lot of established agents, but there was an area a couple towns over that had a lot of new homes being built. And so it just made sense. I should go where there was less competition. And back then, go a few towns over was like a weird thing. Now agents cover whole counties and cover 30 cities. But so that was probably unusual, but it was like common sense to me, as a lot of things in real estate came to me as common sense, and I didn't see that happen with the other agents. So I went to this new area. They were still building the homes, but there were earlier phases that closed, and there was a guy that had a for sale by owner sign in his front yard. So I contacted him, and contacted him multiple times. Finally got a hold of him. He said, "Hey, I've already decided who I'm going to hire. I'm hiring so and so. They've sold some homes in the area. They're established, and so I don't need your help." And that little bit of chance or hope was like there was no chance or hope. He shut me down, but I heard, okay, I got to get this. I have to be the one to get this. Yeah. So I don't know how many times I called him, dropped stuff off his doorstep, I mailed him, knocked on his door, handed him stuff, called him more. I'd leave his house. I had handwritten notes. The broker had recruited me a lot. He's sending me handwritten notes all the time. So I learned to use handwritten notes. So I drop something off at his door, his house, and then I'd get in my car, write a handwritten note, drive to the post office and mail it so it would get there the next day. And so I was all over him. And finally, on one of the phone conversations, he said, "Look, all right, I give up. You can come over and talk to me, but I've already told you who I'm going to hire, and I'm not going to hire you. So I think you're wasting your time. And I said, thank you. I'll be there tomorrow night. I left the office that night, and the broker and several agents were standing out in the parking lot. And the broker said, "Oh, look at Heller. He's going to meet with the seller that's not going to hire him." And they all chuckled and laughed. And I went to the appointment. I've decided this is going to be my career, and you're going to be my first client. And no one's going to work harder. No one can work harder than I'm going to work. And no one's going to give you more time than I can, because I don't have any other clients. So I don't have anything else going on. So you're going to get 100% of me instead of a portion of someone else. And I was just relentless. And finally he said, all right, I'll give you a chance, and hired me. About a week or two later, he called me and said, "Hey, Chris, this Saturday, a coworker's coming down, and I think he wants to buy the house, and I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with it. Can you be here to meet with him?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." So met with him. The guy said, "Yeah, I want to buy the house." So my first transaction was I had both sides of the transaction, and buyer and seller, and showed up at the sales meeting the next day. And at the sales meeting every week, agents would tell what they did, what sales they made, and I told everyone, and everyone was like, "How you did what? You found the buyer and sold it in a week?" And I remember the broker saying, like, "Don't think that's going to happen all the time." And I was like, "Well, why should it not happen all the time?" And anyway, so that was my first one. It was just like I was just a determined maniac.
I love that. Did you spend the commission check on anything exciting?
No, I may still have that money. So I don't spend I don't spend money on things exciting. I buy real estate.
So from that first house you sold to the last house you sold and beyond, let's walk through your career a little bit. How did you progress?
So at the end of that year, I worked every day. I literally worked every day, 365 days. The broker was an ex-Marine, and he used to get in early, like at 7:00. So I made sure I was always the first one there. So I was there like at 6:30 in the morning. It was rare that I wasn't the last one there at 8 or 9 at night. And at the end of that first year, I was like, how am I going to sell more homes? Like I can't, there's no more days. There's no more hours. Like what am I going to do? So I just sat there and like, okay, I need to not do some stuff I'm doing so I can spend more time with buyers and sellers. So I hired an assistant. I hired my girlfriend's brother, who had no qualifications, for $5 an hour, and had him handle paperwork, answer the phones, stuff envelopes, deliver things. The other agents in the office, now I was pretty young compared to all the agents in the office. The other agents in the office were like, who do you think you are? You think you're the president hiring an assistant? Because back then it was people didn't have assistants, right? They were just real estate agents. I was like, well, you've been stuffing envelopes for the last 4 hours. I'm paying him $5 an hour to do that. Well, I'm going to go out and sell homes while you're stuffing envelopes. So it just makes sense to me. And it allowed me to sell 38 homes, going from 27 homes to 38 homes the next year, and then 53 homes, and then to 71 homes, and to 111 homes. So now I didn't do that just with that one assistant, and he didn't work out. There was a next one, which wasn't qualified and lasted about a year or two. But I had no skills in hiring or selecting people. But it just, as I did more, I knew I needed more help. So one of the things that was very time consuming was showing properties to people, right? Because you could spend a week and show them 50 houses and, spend 30, 40 hours. And if I was doing that, I couldn't be doing other things to generate business. So I had an agent who I saw was really good at working with buyers. And I said, and it was with another company. I said, hey, how about if I refer you all my buyers and you pay me a fee for them, but not the standard fee. I want a bigger fee because I'm not just giving you one, I'm going to give you all of them. And we did that, and he did a great job. And then one day I said, why don't you just come work for me? And be on, Teams wasn't a concept, so I didn't call it a team. It's just like come join me. And he did. And then he became my showing assistant or buyer's agent. And so the team just kept growing out of necessity of me doing more business.
You've, not to age you, but you've got this long career in real estate now. What's keeping you in real estate, right? What's so special about this industry that's made you want to go from an agent to a team leader to an executive? And I mean, you probably could have done anything now at this point, right? You've been the CEO of a couple major companies. You've sort of touched consumer products. You've touched business to business products. Why stay in real estate?
So on a personal level, I love real estate. Like I love owning and buying real estate. Uh, I have, um, I will sell one property and potentially buy another property today. So there's just that stuff is happening all the time. So I've always liked real estate, the physical real estate. As far as the industry goes, I didn't choose it, right? I didn't, that guy spent 3 years getting me into it. But having done what I've done, I'm kind of in a unique situation where I know it at every level, and there's not very many people in the industry that do, right? There's great real estate agents and great team leaders, and there's some great brokers, and there's some great executives, but not very few that have done all at the highest level. And that puts me in a unique position where I just have a lot of knowledge, experience, and skills that are appealing to a lot of different companies in the space. I could go outside the space, and if the right situation came up, that's not a door that I would shut. But it's the thing I know better than anything else.
So having been in real estate for all this time, have you noticed that the industry itself has changed and grown?
Yeah, I've been through, just because of how long I've been doing it, I've been through, I was in it when I had to stop and use a payphone to call an agent or call a client back or set up an appointment to show a house, right? I've been in it that long. So yes, I've seen all the changes from mobile phones to the internet to, how the industry's changed, how brokers operate, how agents operate, what's new models. It's like anything, like any industry that you looked at over the last 40 years, they've changed, and as has real estate. Now, similar to probably some other industries, but different than most, is the act of helping someone buy or sell a home and the conversations that an agent has with a buyer or seller haven't changed that much. Right? It's still an emotional purchase for a buyer, or an emotional situation for most sellers, and that agent the good agents are the ones that are really more advisors, consultants, therapists, than they are salespeople, or as much as they are salespeople.
I like the idea of you in a payphone calling 1-800-COLLECT and trying to get it all in. Hi, it's Chris Heller. Come meet me at 123 Main Street. Bye.
You had to be really organized. You had to be if you're going to show 7 homes to a buyer that day, the day before and the night before, all the calls had to be made to the agents, to the sellers. You had to have it mapped out, physically mapped out, so you're driving and know where to drive and all those things.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's interesting, though, because you sort of touched on the things that have changed, but it seems like just from talking to you, a lot of things have stayed the same, right? Because you're talking about earlier in your career, a big growth engine for you was automating some of the other work, perhaps, whether it's through a personal assistant or finding a different amount of support so you could really focus on the client, and then focusing on what you're really good at, right, is working with selling clients, and then just growing your sphere and growing your sphere. Is that still a challenge for real estate agents? Is that still something that you think is at the forefront? Because it sounds like it's the same to me.
It is. It just takes a different form, right? I got to the point where I knew there were only 2 things I could do to produce more sales, more income, anything else. I could become more efficient and or more effective. Right? Beyond that, I couldn't think of anything magical to do. So efficiency was systems and processes. Now, back then, systems and processes were paper checklists and filing systems and sorting systems and everything else. Now we leverage technology to become more efficient. Effectiveness was my skills, my sales skills, my presentation skills, handling objections, really knowing how to listen and understand what someone's saying beyond the words they're using. And that just came out of practice. I wasn't born a great salesperson. I didn't have the typical personality or characteristics or anything else. I just practiced, and I practiced every day. I role played first thing every morning. I had role play partners, and I did that for the 26 years that I was actively selling. I did that every day, and for me, it was just like, oh yeah, of course you would do that. Like, you want to be better, you practice. I didn't realize how uncommon that was. And even today, the amount of agents that will put in that type of effort or, work to increase their skills is still a head scratcher for me, why there's, just such a lack of willingness to do that.
So I'm assuming it was that consistency that took you from becoming an agent at Keller Williams to then leading a team to then eventually becoming CEO. Can you talk a little bit about being CEO of Keller Williams?
Yeah, being consistent and persistent were definitely two of the traits that helped. I think I had also launched some brokerages, some franchises from scratch, like me, and then a second agent, then a third agent, and built those up to several hundred agents, and had some of the most successful franchises in the network. So the leaders not only saw me as being one of the top teams, eventually the top team in the company, but they also saw me execute at a business level, at a very high level. So one day in 2008, the CEO called me. I was going to be in Austin the next week, and he said, "Hey, when you come to Austin, we want to talk to you." We said, we've been thinking a long time about going international, and there's two reasons why we haven't. One is until the company got to a certain size, we're not, the founder's not going to let us, and we're not there, but we will be within the next year or two. And number two, we never knew who could do it. And when I said your name to the president, we both said, he's the perfect one. And so when you come to Austin next week, we want to talk to you, see if you'd be interested in leading up all our international expansion. I said, well, I can tell you right now I'm interested. Now, I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea how to do it. I had no idea. In my mind, as close to impossible as anything could be, because no one in the company knew how to do anything else. And they were saying, hey, Chris, you're going to go do it. I'm a real estate agent, and I own some brokerages in San Diego, and I'm going to expand the company around the world. But I like challenges, and that was a big challenge. And I also have always felt like everything I do, even today, is preparing me for something else. And I felt what I had done up to that point was preparing me for the next challenge, and this was the next challenge. So I did that. I became the president of the worldwide division, which originally started with me and my assistant. That was the whole division. And 5 years later, Keller Williams was open and operating in over 20 different countries. And we had done something that I don't even think the owner of the company thought could be done. And at that point, the CEO was ready to move on, and I was their choice, and the next obvious one become the next CEO of the company.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to not maybe letting your own preconceived notions about yourself limit yourself, right? I think even as I sort of switched careers from being a journalist and working with Inman and then coming in-house and working here for Ojo and Movoto, it's maybe I don't have that traditional background, but I know I have a set of skills. I know what I can bring to the table, and I'm not going to limit myself by, what my previous titles have been or the people that I've worked with previously. So I think that's sort of a good sort of tangible takeaway too, is not putting your own self in a box and saying no to opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's Patrick, I agree. I think there were many nights where I was laying in bed and I would say out loud to my wife, why do they think I can do this? Like, I don't know how to do this. Why do they think I can? What do they see that I don't see? Because I don't see how I'm going to do this. We fear, all those are normal human traits. I think the differentiating thing is how you react to it. From again, back to childhood, there were things that happened that I had a choice in that moment to either run or not, or face it. And for whatever reason, because I didn't want to be embarrassed or whatever it was, I faced it. Worked. Sometimes it didn't work out. So when we got to take a leap or go do something, it's natural to have fear. It's just how do you react to it? My natural reaction is to attack it, to run at it, which again, sometimes is good, sometimes it's not good. But it was, okay, this is what makes my heart beat, and this is what makes me feel alive. I'm gonna go try to do something that I don't know how to do, or that is a big thing.
So currently you are president of Movoto. Let's talk about this current challenge that you're facing. What's it like working at Movoto, and how is it different from what you've done in the past?
There's always things that are similar and always things that are different, right? The things that are similar is working with people, getting the best out of people, leading, making good decisions, implementing, moving fast. Those things are sort of things that I would do no matter what or where I was doing. The things are different as is the type of business you're in, the talent around you, type of people around you. We're a company that competes with much larger, bigger companies. So it's sort of that underdog type situation, or at least that's the story I've created for myself. Be the David and conquer Goliath. Nothing in life is easy, and no one said it was going to be easy. So hard doesn't deter me or bother me.
Awesome, I love it, Chris. Let's get real. We have some rapid fire questions for you. This is sort of don't spend too long thinking. Just answer first thing that comes to mind. If you're ready to go, let's jump in. What is the most complicated deal you ever closed in your career?
Ooh, some of the franchises that we did around the world were really complicated because you're dealing with, completely different laws and different cultures. So I'm sure those were high up on the list.
Okay, you can go back in time and give your 19-year-old self one piece of advice. What is that piece of advice?
At 19, it would have been to not worry about what other people think.
I love it. What is the biggest misconception you think people have about buying or selling real estate?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me split into both buying and selling. So on the buying side, it's, there's a lot of misconceptions. One is how important the right agent is or good agent is. I think there's, most people believe an agent's an agent, and, they're going to show me properties and I'll buy the one I like. So that's definitely a misconception. Same for selling a home. I think, and it goes back to the right agent. If you have a great agent, it's going to feel a lot more effortless. And if you don't, it's going to be more challenging.
And last question for you. What was your favorite part about being a real estate agent?
There were two. One was when a seller was interviewing 4 or 5 or 6 agents, and I got them to choose me. That was winning the game. Then the other part was when someone got their dream home or someone got their home sold and they were super happy, and you get to be the hero for helping them. So those are the two things I loved the most.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah, Chris, thank you. I've spent a long time asking you questions, so it was fun to get to do it again for a little bit, but I always appreciate the pearls of wisdom that you are willing to share. So thank you for the time.
Thanks for having me on. You guys made it fun and easy.